Then open up Virtual Dub Mod like we installed earlier. And here we are in Virtual Dub Mod, which I'm going to be calling Virtual Dub out of habit. This is actually a separate program from Virtual Dub, and really they could probably both perform these functions, but I find the interface on this version a little better. Okay, the first thing we need to do is open up the massive number of frame files this produced. Go to File, Open Video File, and I'm already at the directory we need to be in. Let's run through it quickly this time. C drive, program file, Steam, Steam apps, your Steam username, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and Episodic. Okay, you'll see here I now have a ton of TGA files, which is the Targa picture format, starting with the name Flyby. These are all the individual frames to our video. As you can see, there's quite a few here, so let's merge them. Go and select the very first one, Flyby Quadruple 0. Also, make sure this box is checked, automatically load link segments. Then we won't have to add these one by one and be forced to take an axe to your PC. Now click on Open. And you can see it's loading them all there. Okay, it's up. If you click on this scrubber button at the bottom, you can skip around through your recording. Now this will be a little choppy, but that's because it's processing so much data as this is all uncompressed. Really, your recordings are never completely smooth until you're watching the final compressed end result. They're just too huge to process smoothly uncompressed. Anyway, we've got our video together now, so let's add our audio. Go and click on the Stream tabs at the top, then Stream List. Notice this window is blank. When you open up a video file, it will normally display any audio files that it contains as well. Since we don't have any yet, let's add one. Click on Add. And this is the same directory as before. Notice how we have flyby.wave here now. The source engine will output a wave that corresponds to the name of your image sequence. So let's select that and press Open. And now you can see an entry here and some stats about the audio file. You won't be able to hear the audio playback in Virtual Dub, but now we know it should copy correctly. Go and press OK. And we have one more step before we're ready to save this. Virtual Dub doesn't know what our frame rate is because it's just a series of images, so we need to specify what it is. Go and click on Video, then Frame Rate. And notice here how our current frame rate is 29.97 frames per second. This is the NTSC standard. It's simply Virtual Dub taking a guess. And notice we have this option to change the video so that it matches the audio's time. I recommend against using this option. It can get the correct frame rate sometimes, but sometimes it can be slightly off, which will cause problems with your sound syncing up. It's always better to choose this middle option and tell it what the frame rate is supposed to be since you already know it. In my case, it's 30. Now press OK. Now our last step is to save this as an AVI so we can edit it later. Go and click on File, then Save As, and you can save this anywhere. I'll just save it to the same directory for now, then type a name for it. I'll call this Flyby Uncompressed, since it's just the raw data. Now look down towards the bottom where it says Video Mode. What you select here can be important. I'll give a quick run through your options. Direct Stream Copy means you're just copying the video and pasting it. You can only make minimal changes to your footage this way, but sometimes you don't need any more than that. We can't use that here because our original footage is just a bunch of images strung together, not an actual video format. Fast Recompress deals with a different kind of color space than what we're using at the moment. This is good for things like exFIT encoding or dealing with footage that comes from a DVD, that sort of thing. When recording from the source engine, your footage will be in the format computers like, which is RGB or red, green, and blue. So for what we're doing, you should usually ignore this option, but it can have its uses. Normal Recompress doesn't have any use with what we're doing, so you can ignore it. Finally, full processing mode means you can run any filter you want with this, and Virtual Dub won't try to cut corners with any inaccurate color data. This is what you're going to want most of the time, so go and select that. Now notice underneath it, it says Compression and says Uncompressed RGB. This means our footage is completely uncompressed, but that's perfectly fine for editing purposes. We'll talk a little bit about compression in a minute. Go ahead and click on Save. Okay, now it's processing our footage. If you want to speed things up a little, notice how the image is moving? If we uncheck it, that frees up a little CPU power. Let's look at some other things here. Notice how the processing priority is set to idle. This determines how aggressive the application is in using the CPU. If you set it to idle, you can run other programs while it's running and it won't slow down anything. The rest of these settings will ramp up its priority. Anything at normal or above will slow down your computer a lot. Actually, it might not if you have a multi-core processor, but I don't. You get several useful statistics here. Here we get our projected file size, which you can see is pretty large. This number can vary depending on your compression, but this is fixed because we have none. It tells you how much of that is video and audio data, how fast it's processing the footage, how much time you have left, etc. And once this finishes, your clip will be ready to edit. I'm going to close this since we're basically done here. Now we're not going to video editing yet, since there are still some more tricks to learn when it comes to recording.